Hello and welcome to Comics in Context. I'm Mark.
I'm Derek.
And we're two history teachers with history degrees who love comics. In this show, we aim to take a look at comics old and modern and put them in the context of the time in which they were written. We're not looking to apologize for any content, but we realize that as time goes by, people use modern lenses to read older books. Along the way, we may also have the chance to shine a light on some fun references we picked up on. The beauty of studying history is that the more you learn, the less you realize you know.
All right, so for today, we're looking at Omac #1, all the way back from 1974. Not the more recent stuff, but way back early, Jack Kirby, 1974, Omac. We get introduced to him right away before we're getting any of his origins. He's already here at this, basically a Sexbot factory. They're making some real creepy-looking dolls in boxes, and Omac's not for this. He's ready to destroy this plant. And so we see him start to destroy the plant, and then we get a flashback to the origins of Omac, which was only a few days before, basically, that he was just some random guy at this company. Omac stands for the One-Man Army Corps. So someone created this thing called the Brother Eye, which is this AI, artificial intelligence, super powerful satellite in the sky that decided upon this person, Buddy Blank, that they're going to turn into the Omac by sending some beams of light and information, turning them into this super powerful molding of man and machine to fight for the peace of the world through the
Global Peace Agency.
The Global Peace Agency, which is supposed to be an international organization that maintains the peace of the world. So they pick Buddy Blank to be the Omac. He gets transformed because he finds out that he was tricked to like this girl, Lila, who we find out is that Sexbot robot, who that they were actually creating to be assassination drones. So they're going to sell them to politicians, attract them with these cute girls, who are then going to hug you and blow up. Easy assassinations, leaves no evidence behind.
And Buddy is horrified by that.
Horrified, especially because he's been kind of the test dummy for this girl Lila. He's starting to really like her, and then he finds her in a box, in pieces. And so that's when he decides to blow up the factory and try to prevent this trade, and that's pretty much how the issue ends. We get a nice little quick 20-page wrap-up.
Right, and Buddy does that after he receives the powers from Brother Eye.
Yes.
Now he becomes Omac. He doesn't really remember being Buddy. So Buddy and Omac are separate things. Buddy's in there somewhere.
Yes.
And as you read throughout the series, you see that, yes, there is this struggle of Omac not really knowing who he is. And Buddy makes a little bit of a return later on in the series.
And he remembers Lila a little bit when he sees her.
Well, with that, let's put the comic in context.
All right, 1974, this was a messy year. So our president was Gerald Ford, only for a few months because Nixon resigned in August, and then Ford takes over. So we just went through Watergate, but we currently have Ford. For our issue cost, so it's still only 20 cents. They even brag about it on the covers. And our federal minimum wage was $2. So not bad, actually.
No, not bad at all. The economy still isn't great, though. You know, when we look at national or global events at the time, as we wrote here in our notes, Nixon nonsense.
Nonsense.
Richard Nixon had just said au revoir, gotten onto Marine One, and, sailed off or flew off into the sunset, as it were. For those not aware, he resigned. Nixon quit the job, and then we get Gerald Ford coming in, another very unpopular president. But nobody really wanted Ford for president. Nobody really wanted Nixon for president at the time he resigned, although he was elected by overwhelmingly popular vote.
They did want Nixon at first, and, I am not a crook.
Right, it turns out he was, and a lot of that was discovered due to the Watergate scandal, which was the downfall of his presidency. For those not aware, Watergate just refers to a hotel in Washington, D.C. The hotel is still there. Richard Nixon, as it turns out, or at least the people who work for him, paid people to break into the Democratic National Headquarters to find out what they were going to say at the upcoming Democratic National Convention. Seemingly that's an innocuous crime. Who cares? Well, the nation cared. And the nation mostly cared because the president ordered it to be done. So whenever you hear the term Watergate, it's referring to the undoing of a president.
And also at this time, right, Nixon, this is when he was a very paranoid man, so he recorded everything that went on in the Oval Office, all of his conversations, all of his phone calls, and eventually those started to get declassified. You eventually have the court case, the Supreme Court cases, U.S. v. Nixon, where he was not able to claim executive of privilege to keep that from being released to the public. So more and more of what he started to do behind the scenes, his desire to drop nuclear weapons on Cambodia and that kind of stuff through Vietnam, all gets released more and more. And people become very anti-Nixon.
Even his supporters became a little anti-Nixon.
Yes.
In addition to Watergate and Nixon, we also have the oil embargo. The OPEC nations, mostly in Southwest Asia, Middle East, had embargoed oil on the United States, and that just means they're not selling us oil. And they did that because of our support of Israel in the Yom Kippur War. And this shows up in other comic books at the time. I know for sure in a Man-Thing issue that I hope that we can review later down the road. But people can't afford gas. And then we start going into an economic crisis. Now, the oil embargo was over by the time Kirby wrote this, but the economic conditions that it inflicted are not over. And then we have India detonating a nuke to become the 6th nation to have nukes, and there's something very unfortunate about that.
Yes, they apparently like to name this nuke the Smiling Buddha, which feels incredibly insensitive and not at all what Buddhism stands for. Very weird that India decided to name their first nuclear weapon that.
Right. Hard to imagine why they would do that. Maybe someday I'll look it up.
Yeah.
And then if we look at other more pop culture-ish kind of references, we have, I think, lots of things are going to influence Kirby here. And this whole series, Omac, really appears to be kind of paranoid about what the future might hold. Because at this point, he's in his 60s, late 50s, and he's I'm also about that same age now, and you're looking at, well, where have we been? Where are we going? And you're like, oh boy, things are really getting bad. The movie Westworld was extremely popular in theaters, and it was a very successful HBO show as well, just a few years back. But the movie Westworld was about rich people could pay to go on vacations to these Disneyland-esque type places where all of the cast there, the people you interact with, they're robots. And sometimes they're pleasure robots. Which, when you just look at this issue of Omac, I'm thinking Jack Kirby saw Westworld.
Yeah, there's definitely some references there for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, and just as we look at just the sci-fi of that era, it's a lot of people starting to look at where do they think tech is going to go. They were predicting what they think basically where we are now, and the horrors that they think might arise from that.
Yeah, and speaking of, Philip K. Dick's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep was a wildly popular sci-fi novel at the time, only coming out 6 years earlier. For those who maybe aren't aware, that becomes the inspiration for Blade Runner, where you have this idea of who's real and who's not, who's a replicant, who's not. We still don't know to this day, is Deckard, the protagonist of the story, is he a replicant or not? Does it matter? Yeah. For some, the beauty is the mystery of not knowing, but I think here Kirby is also, he's inserting kind of that speculation of what does it mean to be human into this story, not just through the robots or the fembots, as I want to call them, but also in Buddy Blank himself, who becomes Omac.
Yeah.
Is Omac human? Is he a robot? Does it matter?
Yeah. If he's still there to fight for world peace and to help us, doesn't matter if he's tech or if he's a weird infusion, if he's lost his humanity.
Right. And now, Derek, I'm going to hand it over to you to talk about the confusing continuity of what it means to be Omac.
Yes. So if you've seen Omac in recent DC things, you'll probably think that this is very different than what you're used to. And it is, because this is pre-Crisis. So if we're looking at DC, in 1970, Kirby just moved from Marvel to DC. So he's been here for about 4 years, but he's going to go back to Marvel in 1975, so the year after this from Omac. 1972, we get this re-ownership into Kinney and Warner, and then eventually DC's going to rebrand in 77. So Omac, he releases in 74 as this character with Brother Eye, who is that AI satellite that empowers Omac with all of these abilities. That becomes very important a little bit into the Crisis events, but really we don't see much of Omac until 2005, when we have the Omac Project, where they've done a pretty big retcon on this whole thing. So in the new post-Crisis universe, Batman actually created Brother Eye with the help of Mr. Terrific, and then Maxwell Lord, who is usually a Wonder Woman villain, comes in and hacks it and makes all these issues where basically the Omacs become sleeper cell agents who are going to destroy all of the metahumans. It becomes a total copy of the X-Men Sentinels, who Kirby invented in 1965. So it becomes the sleeper cells who are programmed with the ability to adapt and the full database of all of the metahumans, and then they become an issue that want to take out the DC universe. So if you're used to that level of Omacs, where the Brother Eye became this evil copy of itself, kind of very much a reference to the 1984 Big Brother. That's what we're more used to, but way back in 74, Omac was entirely different. Brother Eye was this good AI that was there just kind of work in union with Buddy, which became Omac only to fix these world issues. And then all the continuing gets confusing, because DC, of course, it does.
My head is spinning just listening to it.
Yeah, you might have to re-listen to that little section, because there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, it seems like if you really want to be an Omac fan, you're dedicating yourself to confusion.
Dedicating to confusion. And apparently, if you want to still follow Buddy, you have to go read Commandi, because Buddy Blank is apparently his great-grandfather, grandfather.
Right, there's a point in the series where Buddy stops being Omac. The series ends really oddly because that's when he leaves to then go write Forever People.
Right.
So he ends his own series abruptly. But we do know that he brings Buddy back to be Commandi's grandfather.
Right.
Yeah.
At some point. And then Buddy still exists somewhere, but the new Omac is a totally different person. And then the Omac issue still comes back somewhat. There's a recent Detective Comics where Tim Robin gets infected with the Omac virus, and Bruce has to help him stop that. So Omac is now a bad-ish thing in the DC universe.
Good luck, folks.
Yep.
All right, well, let's get into our comic book review. And I wanted us to start with the quote, "Where does humanity stop and technology begin?" Omac asks this as he's freeing Lila from the lab. But I think that's Kirby saying something.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very much. That is the overall theme of Kirby's paranoia and fear. And even on the cover, it has a startling look into the world that's coming. That tells you everything. Kirby is afraid of what's about to occur, afraid of what he thinks technology is capable of. We're thinking this is a person who was born in 1919, so they saw the rise of everything, the radio, the television, the moon landing, the internet, because he died in 1994. So he's, obviously in 74, he hasn't seen the internet yet, but he's seen this vast expansion of technology. And the fear is definitely there. Yes.
Yeah. And we do see in this issue that, that Kirby has this hope that all nations will be able to work together to prevent violence.
Yes, so when he creates that global peace agency, this is supposed to be almost like UN plus. It's something that's above and beyond that. And they really make this big thing about you don't know what their identity is, what their race is. They wear this thing that he calls cosmetic spray that makes them orange-faced. So you're not supposed to know who they are or what they are, because they didn't want bias coming in. They wanted to show that these people are able to protect all of humanity and are going to prevent the issues regardless of their origin and regardless of who you are, which I think is really actually really nice sentiment. There's some interesting stuff now looking in 2026 with the idea of masked police agencies, where there's obviously some weird stuff going on there. But it's very interesting to see in the 70s. And he keeps bringing up this term of the dangerous age. He was very much afraid of what's going to happen with the increased technology. He's beginning to have this idea of artificial intelligence, which was growing very big at this time. And so there was this fear of that things are going to get more dangerous, and the only way to stop it will be this higher agency that could prevent it.
Right, this global peace agency, which as I was reading it, initially you think, boy, this is Kirby taking some odd spin on the United Nations. Mm-hmm. Maybe he's making a commentary on the ineffectiveness of the United Nations, so he creates the global peace agency with these agents that they spray this stuff on their head and you can't see their faces. But then about halfway through the issue, it tells us that the agency was born out of NASA and other space agencies all sort of collapsing and then reforming to steward the planet and protect us from violence.
Mm-hmm. It was kind of a weird explanation, but it was. I like the thing you mentioned too about a little bit of criticism on the UN, because that's often the issue. Is the UN really has no teeth. They make these big statements of oh, you can't do that, the Geneva Convention. Don't do this. Who's gonna stop it, right? Basically, the U.S. has to come in and give them some of our military, and so the Global Peace Agency is this. I guess Kirby's idea of the next step, where they have Brother Eye, this super satellite that has teeth. It can enforce it now.
Absolutely. It made a super soldier.
Yeah, very easily.
And I found it odd, funny, sad. I'm really not sure my feelings on it. But the company that Buddy works for is called Pseudo People Incorporated. Mm-hmm. And this is this corporation that makes the Sexbots. But in the beginning, all of the employees are dressed the same. They're sitting in offices. We're really not sure what anybody does. It's almost like they're just going through the motions of having a job. And I'm not even sure that many of them even know what it is that the company produces. Mm-hmm. They just work.
Right. which is very much just like those cogs in the machine. And in the 70s, that was a huge thing for a lot of people. We think Berkeley freedom protests and that kind of stuff. There's often people not, especially kids, not wanting to just be a cog in the machine. They wanted to have purpose. They didn't want to feel like they're just being raised to not even know what their company's doing. But I think in like the 50s and 60s, that was fine. People were fine with that. Like, you work at your company, you get your pension, you do your job for 30 years, boom, retire. And I think Kirby was probably finger on the pulse in that way. This is not what the kids want to live anymore.
Right, and Buddy stands up to that eventually once he realizes what the company's doing.
Yes.
But Buddy himself was a pseudo person.
He was.
Go to work, do the job, get the paycheck, as you were saying.
Yep, don't ask any questions.
And then we move into this realm of AI, although he's not calling it AI. The professor who creates Brother Eye is known as Myron Forrest, and he's really proud of this invention, and Buddy is the first test subject. Which, by the way, maybe we left out that the GPA selected Buddy against his will
Yes.
to be the recipient of this laser blast from space that turns him into Omac.
Yeah, there was no ask.
There was no ask at the exact same time when the Sexbots are being revealed. So this is all brand new. Omac basically wakes up and realizes, I have to stop this horrible thing from happening. But as I was reading, I was thinking, is there some commentary on AI here? I want to say yes, particularly knowing about Westworld and Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. I think it's Kirby saying, watch out, everybody, the robots are coming.
Yes, and that really has been a continuous thing if you've just watched sci-fi for the last 50, 60 years at this point. The robots are coming, it's going to happen. And even now, we're starting to see that growth of AI, but we still don't know what that looks like. But people are definitely afraid of it.
Well, let's take a look at some of the references in this issue. Okay, first, we have to start with blow-up dolls.
The blow-up dolls. If you read this book, that first page is Lila in a box, open mouth, legs bent over her head, like, what's going on here?
And then it starts with Omac in this factory with all of these beautiful women in their packaging, some fully assembled, some partly assembled, but it's clear what's going on here. And I know this, the 1970s was seeing the rise of porn in the United States and head shops and other alternative cultures, so I think Kirby is somehow, I don't know what street he was walking down, but maybe he saw something in a window and thought, I bet this could be a part of my story.
Yeah. And he never specifically calls them Sexbots.
No, that's
Build-A-Friends.
That's us.
Yes, and probably because he had to get through the comic authority still. You probably couldn't say Sexbots back in 74, but you could say Build-A-Friend. And have her mouth open as she's sitting there in the thing. Like, it's obvious what's going on here.
It is obvious. And then there's this one scene where the first time that we see what the Build-A-Friends are being used for, there's this book publisher. We see the doll delivered to the guy. He assembles her. She basically thanks him and says, I want to be your friend. And then she hugs him and kaboom.
Yep.
Blows up.
This assassination tool.
Right, but she is dressed in a mini skirt. There's nothing about her that's unattractive. She's got her little high heels on. And this balding middle-aged man is just entranced with what he just got.
Yep.
So I think Kirby's saying, so let's be careful about, again, blending those lines between what's human and what's technology.
Yeah. And we're even seeing that people, like with the chat bots now, being able to like just have, people are having almost parasocial relationships with like ChatGPT and those kind of just chat bots, where that's becoming more interesting than humans.
Right, which is completely unhealthy because those algorithms are designed to validate you. They're not designed to challenge you.
No.
You wanted to talk about the cosmetic spray for the agents.
I thought that was very interesting. I liked the initial points of hiding their race and their identity, but then as we see even today, if you maybe watched like the HBO version of Watchmen, they had it where the police in that were fully covered to protect their identity. And in that one, they did it because it was protecting their families. But this is an interesting kind of thing that I thought Kirby was bringing up, right? Like, should law enforcement be fully hidden like that? And this idea of taking out people's race and identity, this was, I think, more in the time where it's, if you're in training in business, it was about being colorblind, right? Not seeing people's identity, seeing people as all neutral, which made sense at the time, but we're seeing more as like those individual factors is what makes us who we are.
Right. And we do learn as the series goes on that the GPA is made up of representatives from all nations, all creeds, all religions.
Yes.
So it is that whole, let's all just be neutral.
Right. Which is of the time for sure.
Then we get this Orwellian sense of Brother Eye.
Brother Eye, obviously a pretty big go back to Big Brother if you haven't read 1984. This big thing that is always watching everything we do, controlling us, which potentially we're seeing more and more nowadays, especially post 9/11 with Patriot Act and NSA and all that kind of stuff. Big Brother is very much a thing, and people have their mixed feelings about that. But Brother Eye was supposed to be a peaceful feeling on Big Brother. I feel like we're also seeing the shift of DC as we go to the modern Brother Eye, maybe DC's new criticism on the government in that way, of how they think now Brother Eye is this destructive AI, which when Kirby was making it, it was hopeful. It was very much something that's going to help the world.
Yeah, but it was literally this eye in space that could see what you were doing. And it is able to communicate with Buddy in real time and send Buddy out to stop the crimes or to intervene however that need be.
Yeah, via just instant light energy. Just send him invisible information. It was pretty cool.
Right, so but Big Brother, Brother Eye is watching.
Big Brother Eye is watching.
And then you and I both wanted to talk about at Pseudo People Incorporated. There's this sense that the employees have to mask all of their emotions and their rage and their passions and everything. But when it's boiling over, instead of going to HR to complain or to seek solace, they have these rooms.
Yeah, so they had like destruction rooms where you could go and just smash stuff, or like there was one they had a doll of a human, you could kick them out the window as hard as you could, which is very hilarious, and I think it's just Kirby doing predictions, but also like destruction rooms are things that exist nowadays. It's people, you spend $20 and it's a room full of plates and you get to throw plates at a wall and break stuff. People have mixed feelings on if that's a good way to take out your anger or not. I think maybe look at what's the source of your anger here, and definitely a company who's just treating people badly and then being, oh, but here's a room to go destroy stuff. I would question that company.
Yeah, and it's funny that he opts to go to the destruct room rather than the silent room.
Yes.
Or the crying room.
The crying
where
room.
There's a woman coming out just saying, sometimes a good cry is all we need, buddy.
Yeah, and sometimes that is just what you need. It's a little sad that they only had a woman coming out and the destruct room was all men. There's some points going on there, too.
Yeah, and they're pretty maniacal looking, too, these men in the destruct room.
Yeah, they're definitely looking angry.
Right. But then there's even this other room where there's cars being lit on fire.
Yeah, and then they trick Buddy, and that's when we first meet Lila again as the tricky bot.
Right. Well, I think that covers about all the references we have. Let's do some final words.
Overall, I think this was just a really fun issue. It really does just take you into the mind of 1974, of Jack Kirby for sure. I think he was given a lot of free reign, it feels like, in this one. Really made a story that he wanted to make, something that was probably really personal to him. And there's some really good messaging in here about someone who's fighting for the good of others, even though the world is maybe accelerating faster than you're used to or that you're comfortable with. How do you adapt and continue to still be a good person in the world that's coming, as he says it?
Absolutely. The world that's coming. And each issue starts with that.
Yes.
In the world that's coming. We look forward to having you join us again for Comics in Context. Have a great day. Be kind to yourself and be kind to others.